welcome everybody and thank you for coming to the forum. This is kind of a strange way to do this. Oh look, I got a billboard up there so I don't have to look at my notepad. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up and welcome to it. This is 2026, it's the semi-quincentennial. I got that out okay. And it is also the year of the club for the ARRL to go in conjunction with that. So, without further ado, next slide. There we go, that's the big welcome slide. And again, welcome, and it is 2:50, and it's good being here in Knoxville again. I love this Hamfest. Looks like we got quite a crowd here, so congratulations. Gonna have to hire some help if it gets any bigger. There's 4 things I'd like for you to take away today from this forum, and that's one, is we need to recruit new amateurs. And when we get them, we need to get them in the league. We need the numbers. We've got legislation in Congress right now, and having numbers helps. Number 2, and this is very important, maybe the most important thing, I want you to be a good mentor. I want you to be an Elmer. That seems to be a place that a lot of clubs and a lot of organizations and a lot of areas fall down on, is once that new ham gets his license, he never hears from anybody. And where would any of us be today if it wasn't for our Elmer? I know I wouldn't be up here because he was very instrumental in keeping me in the hobby when I was a teenager. He absolutely took away the CB radio from me and made me get on the air and do code every night until I passed my 13 word per minute. So that's back in the day. I'm dating myself. The other thing that was very important is to build relationships. And Jim talked about that a little bit in Zari's presentation. It's very important for us to keep a good rapport with our served agencies, with our Department of Emergency Management, with our local governments. It's very, very important. And also, it's very important to keep a relationship amongst ourselves, with our club members, our fellow club members, our neighboring clubs. We got to work together, and that relationship is key. The other thing, I want you to be positive and not negative about the hobby. We've got enough negative stuff going on in this hobby and in the country right now that we just don't need to throw gas on the fire. Something my grandmother used to say, you can't say anything nice about it, don't say anything at all. So that's something to remember. Next slide. It is the year of the club, 2026. We designated that at the board, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the semi-quincentennial, celebrating our 250th. So you notice that Dave and John, Mark, and I, and Dale are wearing these little buttons that say 2026 year of the club, and it's red, white, and blue. So that's something to be proud of and something to promote. Promote your local club. For this year, our membership, our leadership, I should say, is myself, K5UZ. I'm your division director. I will represent you at the board of directors, and I also have that fiduciary duty of steering the corporation, making those good financial decisions. John Mark is my new head. He's my new second in command, my new executive officer. Back there is your vice director, and welcome aboard. We'll get him up here to say a few words if he wants, and introduce himself. John Mark, come on down. John Mark's formerly of the Louisiana State Police, so watch out.
Thanks, David. Other than the fact that I just want to say how much I appreciate David, the ARRL, and Ed, who was a fantastic mentor, and I hope to do him proud for as long as I'm doing this. But what I want to say to Tennessee is, and I said this last night at supper, as a section manager in Louisiana, Tennessee was and is awesome. We got more help and more just enthusiasm, especially during hurricane season. We could count on the Tennessee section to come and say, hey, what can we do to help? And we even had some of you guys say, hey, I'll throw a bag in an RV and we'll head to Louisiana. And that's just awesome. And so thank you to the Tennessee section. It's good to meet everybody. I hope to meet more of you. And I hope to do David proud and the league proud. And I thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Have a great Hamfest.
Okay, well, John Mark is one of our elected officials. He was appointed due to Ed's resignation, but I think sometime we got an election coming up. So if he wants to run for re-election, he can certainly do. I guess it would be election in this case. However, we've got other elected officials within the division, and they're at the section level. And we had one just do a program for us. Dave Thomas has been our section manager here in Tennessee for several years. He's doing a great job. Tennessee's awesome, like John Martin said. You know, they help us out around the division in Mississippi and Louisiana in particular when we get bad weather down there, and same in Arkansas. Arkansas and Tennessee are kind of the helpers, the backups when we have hurricanes, and you know that's where we draw on a lot of resources to help with our communications needs down south. And I want to thank John Martin because he's been a good section manager during his term down there, and we really appreciate his work. Back me up one. One gentleman in here in particular I want to point out, Malcolm Cone, W5XX. He's our section manager in Mississippi. He is the longest serving section manager in the ARRL. He's right at the record of being the longest serving section manager in the league. And I believe he's made that. So we want to congratulate Malcolm. In Louisiana, the John Mark's replacement, if you will, is Houston Paulson, N5YS. Colonel Paulson's a retired Air Force guy, a retired professor, and he's doing a great job down there. So he's taking the reins and just taking the ball and run with it. And Jay Ferguson, N5LKE up in Arkansas. Jay just kind of maintains an even keel with a really good SEC he has there, and they help us out. Next slide now, thank you. Got a number of what we call assistant directors, not to be confused with the vice director. Vice directors are red badge and an elected official. The assistant directors are appointed by me and formerly in conference with Ed and now Jay. John Mark, and they're mainly geographic in nature around the division to kind of give good feedback to us. And that's the list right there. Next slide, please. We also have some task-specific assistant directors around the division. We've got Logan Heinzelman, who's our youth. We're fixing to have to look at replacing him. He's about to graduate with an aviation degree and go fly one of the branches. I don't know if he's going to go Army or Marine Corps. I'm twisting his arm for the Marines, but we'll see what happens there. We've got Phil Green, our section manager, who's looking to step down, so I'm going to be taking applications for webmaster over there and for the division site, which I just recovered recently. And Steve Waterman works with FEMA and the digital folks at WinLink, and also Hank Keebler's working with TEMA over here. He's been with us on the team for a lot of years. In addition to those assistant directors, the directors all have an advisory committee, the standing advisory committees, of which there are two on the board, and that's the DX Advisory Committee and the Contest Advisory Committee. Our DX Advisory Committee member is Steve Rutledge from Memphis, N4JQQ. I've known Steve a lot of years. And Stan Stockton, K5GO, it was Philo Springs, Arkansas, on the CAC. I've known Stan for a lot of years also, good guys. Very, very, very up on the subject. They're very active in these committees. They've probably reached out to you. I know Steve recently reached out to a lot of the DXers in the division to get some input on the honor roll numbers and other matters. And we appreciate both of these gentlemen and what they do. Next slide, please. At headquarters, we're having a little change up in things. We got Bart, W9JJ, the radio sport and regulatory manager. We got Steve Ewald, who's still there. Steve is an old Knoxville guy and a UT grad. One of the best employees we've had up there, and don't know what we're going to do when Steve retires. Big shoes to fill. Eventually, I think he's going to retire and move back to Knoxville, so you'll gain a guy when that happens. We've got Steve Goodgame, W5 ATA. Steve has recently resigned as our education manager for some personal reasons, not David Minster reasons, but he's got some insurance issues that came up and he had to go back to the insurance in the Mississippi and the teaching profession. We've got Josh Johnson, who is wearing several hats right now. Josh is our Director of Emergency Management. He's also our Field Services Manager now. So he takes care of all the section managers' needs, along with Steve Ewald, and he looks after all of the ECs and SECs' needs. So he's a busy man right now. Okay, as I said, Steve has resigned to move back to Mississippi, but he's still working on our Teachers Institute, so he's not going away. Next slide, please. We did a number of things at the January board meeting, and I can't see it from here, but we looked at changing up some of the language in those bylaws, 46 and 42, which were problematic. Those got corrected. Our investment returns yielded about 15.9% for 2025, so that's some good news for us. We're going to stay solid. Where investment portfolio, you can see there on the numbers, we're just over 43 million, maybe even more than that now. So we're looking at having some long-term ability to preserve this organization and this hobby with that kind of a bankroll. We're operating right now, it looks like we're running in the red based on our receipts and revenues. However, we got some fallback with those investment numbers. We looked at the possibility of removing the $35 FCC licensing fee. Well, that's interesting. Speaking with our FCC and Washington attorney, it's turning out that they're not making any money off of this, and what we're looking at on the table is they're going to have it as a one-time fee because unfortunately Congress mandated that they do this, so they got to do something to meet that goal. So what we're looking at is going to change it to a one-time fee because, quite frankly, their administrative costs are more than what they're bringing in with this. If they just have a one-time fee and forget it, we're done. It'd be nice if it was like a $0 fee too, wouldn't it? I'd go for that. We looked at doing the single band DXCC Honor Roll Awards plaques. Right now we're looking at how much it's going to cost to program it into LOTW. May or may not happen. And no 60 meters, guys, sorry. It is verboten. We moved to continued growth of clubs and ARRL with several specific points being website development, help there. We've got some things going forward with some programs to help you get a better website developed. We've got a program going where we partner a weak club with a strong club and help the weak club out with the brain trust, their knowledge. Number of issues happening there, promotional work, how we can do to get the word out, public information, etc., etc. Again, we're working on a program and working with several clubs to update their websites and hopefully get something long-lasting and permanent there. Move to have the Elections and Ethics Committee form a working group to shorten the ARRL election cycle. We should know our election results by the same time we know who the president is, instead of by Thanksgiving. There's no reason for that. And we're not dealing with snail mail anymore with a lot of these back and forth with the candidates getting their information in. We're doing it electronically. What's the holdup? So we're going to move to shorten that a little bit on the front end and Still give the membership time to decide, you know, who to vote for. That period's not going to change much, but there are things we can do administratively on the front end to get it quicker. And of course, we're looking at ways to get the GMRS folks more involved in this and get them a ticket if they're interested. It's a good, about 30,000 folks out there pool that we can pull from and get some more members and get some more amateurs. They do radio, they like radio, let's show them the rest of the world. What's not to like with ham radio? It's like Jerry Clower used to say, we got so many ways you're bound to like one of them. And then of course we've got our legislation action going. We looked and discussed the importance of unity within amateur radio and ARRL in support of our legislation in Congress, and we'll talk about that in a second. Next slide. The legislation we have before us is H.R. 1094 and Senate Bill 495. And this is our HOA work. It is the Amateur Radio Emergency Communications Act. And I think that we're gaining sponsors. If we can ever get it attached to something and get it to the floor to the vote, we'll get it passed this time. It gives you a good tool to work with your HOAs and get past those restrictions with some kind of reasonable antenna. Next slide, please. Yes, we're still doing the letter writing campaign. If you have not written your congressmen and your senators, please do so. We've had some really good videos come out, and if you haven't noticed online, we had Ted Cruz came out in full support of this, in full support of amateur radio. Excellent video. And just recently, we've had the governor of Washington come out in support of us. So there is some momentum out there. Let's keep building on it. If you know someone who has not sent a letter, twist their arm. Let's get those letters in. I know probably most everybody in this room has done it. How many have sent their letter into Congress? Most everybody. Yeah, if you hadn't done so, please do so. Next slide. What's even more important than sending a letter from you personally as an amateur radio operator is to get your club to send in a letter. Now, why is that? Well, I'm writing for the Knoxville group, for the Radio Amateur Club of Knoxville, and we represent how many members in our club? How many hundred members do you have in that? You put that on that letter, the congressional staff sees that you represent 300 amateur radio's constituents in their district, and that gets their attention. Strength in numbers. That's the whole point of this, strength in numbers. So please, if your club hasn't sent in one, talk to your president, talk to your officers, and get that done. Next slide. Membership numbers, again, strength in numbers is important. In March, you see the percentage change from February. We've had a little tick up in most of the sections. We were flat nationally, but as far as month to month on that, we've had a little bit of tick up. And in Tennessee and in Arkansas, carrying it for the most part, a little tick down in Louisiana and Mississippi. And those numbers do fluctuate from month to month, by the way. So you can kind of see where we've been headed. Next one, please. May, again, it's kind of porpoising on us. So Tennessee had a drop. In fact, all of them had a drop across the board. So Louisiana did the best. Arkansas next, and then Mississippi. There's some issues going on in Mississippi with population, demographic. And Tennessee had a loss, which was a little bit surprising. Nationally, it was down, so you know it kind of follows the trend. The division is mirroring it pretty well. For the year, we're below, not the worst, but you know we are below. So we'd like to bring that up, strengthen numbers. Next one, please. You can see the graphic trend within the division. Yeah, I put these things together. I keep up with these stats and put them on one spreadsheet and run a graph. I'm an engineer, what do you expect? Okay, next one, please. Whoops, I missed one, back up. Yeah, nationally, kind of parallels. We had a little bit of a tick up versus the national, which got flat and then went down. Okay, next one. One of the problems we have is demographics, though it may be improving slightly. The average age of the ARRL member in Ham, as best we can tell based on the information we have, which is somewhat dated because we couldn't stop collecting that information some years ago, is about 66. And it may be older, that's the league members that we know of, and the average age of the hounds in general may be older in this country. In Europe, where they keep better track of it, the average age is now over 70. Not good. Rick Roderick used to use an old graph, if many of you remember. Rick would, when he was director, he had this graph of the age, the bell curve of the age of amateur radio operators, and that curve has just continued to shift to the right. So, you know, we need to, you'd be thinking about that. May not be all bad, but, you know, we need to be thinking about the future. Who is your legacy? Who's behind you? Next slide. Another really big threat that we're dealing with is this shortwave modernization committee, and it is basically real-time trading over HF for stocks. They can gain a fraction of a second, which is an eternity in stock trades, by doing it on HF versus through the cable versus doing it through copper or fiber optic. Now, that's rather interesting. But here's the problem with this. They're running HF radios that are frequency agile. They're going to be running adjacent to our allocations. They may be after our allocations on there too, who knows. And they're wideband. They run 20 kilowatt on a stepper hour and flex radios, feeding their data into it. That is no joke. And it is ugly. You thought BPL was ugly? It doesn't hold a candle to this. And it will absolutely render large segments of our HF bands unusable. Next slide. You know, one thing about it, too, before we go onto this one, is that is a real threat to us. We do have a committee gathering data and giving it to the FCC through the league. So that's another good selling point about the ARRL. We are doing something about it, or trying to proactively head that off. Question I've got out, I've noticed a drop in the number of emails that I get when I send out. I get a report generated back to me on number of recipients, and I had this big drop after the cyber attack, and we're thinking that some of those conditions that you set up when you put in your membership may have changed on. Some of those switches may have flipped. It was really odd, some of the things that happened during that. But I'm not getting the receipts like I used to, and it's not in proportion with the drop in membership, so that's kind of a red flag. So please, if you're not getting your email, please go in and set it to where you're subscribed to the division and section emails and anything else you want to get, because it may have reset on you. And pass the word along to your club members and your friends. If they're not getting the blasts, go in there and make sure they're set up for it in their web page, on their league membership page. Next one, please. Here's a good selling point that you can use at your local club. Go to the library. Your local public library is always looking for a program. They're always looking for something interesting to do on Saturdays with the young folks. And we've got this wonderful book set that we're willing to give to you at a greatly discounted price. You see all the publications listed in there. And it's great for your local library, your public library. It's good for colleges and universities. good for your high school, junior high. It's a STEM selling point. We need engineers in this country. We need technical people in this country. And this is a good pathway into it. Ham radio, when I was a teenager, is where I mastered trigonometry, believe it or not, for that advanced exam. And it teaches you a lot of things. So this set's available. Go to your local library or approach your librarian, tell them who you are, and that you'd like to donate them a set of library books. And oh, by the way, we can put on a program for you, Introduction to Ham Radio. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for an activity for the family or for youth, we can run classes. There's another end right there. Good selling point. Next slide, please. So what we can do, well, that didn't make the translation good to Apple. There's no one remedy, there's no one silver bullet, but it's going to be a combination of things that we can do to help the hobby and to preserve it going into the future. And just a few things that we can do. One thing I'd like for everybody to do is to go out and recruit one new amateur this year and get them in the league. If every ham in this country recruited one more amateur, what would our numbers be? What would happen? They'd double. We'd be double the number. Same thing with league membership. We could double our numbers. One person just goes out and gets a membership. You can go with the book set, like I just said. Approach your library with that. Approach your schools. Go to your scout troops. That's a good recruiting ground right there. Run a merit badge. We have a radio merit badge. And it closely mirrors the technician license exam. We've done this in the past in Arkansas, in my town. We used to run that with a scout troop at the church, and we got a number of guys licensed, and a lot of those guys are still licensed. To this day, they're still active. It works. We got them their technician license with the merit badge, and then, oh yeah, by the way, guys, come back in 2 weeks, let's study this, and then we're going to get you your general. Got them on the air on general, we got on HF, boom. It's great. Approach your schools with the STEM aspect of amateur radio. That's a good selling point. They'll be interested, their ears will perk up. Do so. Reach out to your friends. Talking about that building relationships, reach out to your friends. See if they're interested. And then, of course, report to our GMRS or FMRS folks and see if we can't gain a few hams that way. I bet we can. We've had success with the Mississippi with this library program. We've had some success in Middle Tennessee, according to Ed, with some of that. In the area just right outside of Jackson, that whole library system is using this. They've got an infusion of money from Nissan to work on STEM programs, and they've incorporated amateur radio right into it. The JAs are all excited about amateur radio, by the way. So. Chattanooga's having some success with the GMRS folks. They're getting them involved in the club in that part of Tennessee and in northern Georgia, and it seems to be working. So let's replicate it. Also in Hattiesburg, they did the same thing with the GMRS group. So where it gets tried, it seems to work. Okay, back up. Yeah, there we go. Field day coming. How many are doing field day this year? Good. Put your best foot forward, make it a good public relations event, get on the air, operate, and have fun. I sure plan to do the same. Next slide. Well, those are the 4 things that we wanted to take away. Again, that's one, let's recruit new amateurs, let's get them in the league. You've got to have strength in numbers to help preserve the hobby. And the amateur radio service. Be an Elmer, be a good mentor. That's where we really need to push. Build those relationships, those are crucial. And be positive, not negative. Next slide. I want to want to thank you for coming. If you got any questions, John, Mark, and I, and David are all here. Thank you.